Greetings, friends, and welcome to my guide on Sophia Extreme. Okay, so the first thing I'll mention is that a lot of these mechanics remain very similar to normal mode, except without the indicators. You can also skip most of these mechanics by force pushing phases with high DPS. I'll try and cover those as we get to them. You'll also want to put down markers like so, and mark players in pairs. There will be a mechanic that requires DPS to stack with tanks and healers later in the fight, and these marks will help with that. Example would be chain 1 and 2, number 1 and 2, 2 different shapes, and 2 ignore marks. Upon pulling the boss, the first thing Sophia will do is Thunder 2. This is a frontal cone attack that does moderate damage and applies a stack of vulnerability. If you watch Sophia closely, periodically the head she stands on will disappear. When it does, you can expect it to appear in another location doing an additional ability. In this case, it is a knockback damaging ability called Gnosis. Simply get in front of the head. This attack does moderate damage, is physical, and can be shielded to avoid the knockback. The next mechanic Sophia will do is summon multiple clones that surround the arena. Their formation will determine what ability Sophia uses. If they appear in a box-like formation or in all corners, it is Thunder 3. Thunder 3 is a donut-style attack that hits everything outside of the boss's hitbox for moderate damage and applies a stack of vulnerability. Thunder 2's formation will not have a sister in each corner. When Sophia casts this ability, she will tether herself to 2 of the clones. The tethered clones will cast Thunder 3 later. Sophia will follow this up with Arrow 3. Arrow 3 is an AoE around her that deals moderate damage and causes knockback. Simply avoid this. During Arrow 3, she will tether herself again, granting the 2 other sisters this ability. The safe spots for the upcoming mechanic, Execute, are the first 2 tethered clones because they will cast Thunder 3. This is identical to when she casts Thunder 2, except the positioning will be slightly different. During Thunder 2, there will be an additional safe spot in one of the corners where a clone is absent. When Sophia casts Execute, the clones will cast the abilities granted to them by the tether. It is possible to skip the clones and go straight into the next phase with high DPS. If DPS is low, Sophia will glow green and cast a physical tank buster that does high damage. Sophia would teleport to the north and soon become untargetable. 3 adds will spawn, the first, second, and third. The whole party will also receive a debuff. This debuff makes it so that if you die, you turn into a zombie and will attack other players. The first is a paladin that should be picked up by 1 tank. Kill him last. He will periodically cast horizontal or vertical parry. When this is up, you will deal 0 damage from the indicated side. This applies knockback and a vuln stack if you attack it from the protected side. Be careful with AoEs here. The last ability he will do is a shared damage charge mechanic. Simply have the targeted person take all the damage and have everyone else step out. This will be a lot easier on healing. The second is a caster and doesn't have to be picked up, but it helps for positionals if the tank that picks up the paladin picks her up. Just burn her down as soon as possible. She will cast Divine Spark, which requires you to look away. If you don't, you will be confused and attack other players. The third is a Dragoon ad that needs to be picked up by the other tank. This ad will target a random player with a line AoE called Gnostic Spear. Simply avoid this. He will then follow this up with a Ring of Pain, which leaves an ice AoE on the ground. This will apply a frost dot if stepped in. The last mechanic is called Stick Rant. This is a huge cleave that will require you to get directly behind him in order to avoid. If not avoided, he will do moderate damage and apply a stack of vulnerability. If the second is not killed fast enough, it will cast Cure 2, which will do high damage and likely kill someone, turning them into a zombie. Once these 3 adds are dead, stack up on the east side because there will be 2 tilts followed by Sophia's ultimate, Scales of Wisdom. This ability hits pretty hard, so be sure to mitigate this with shields and make sure everyone is topped. Now depending on damage, she will skip her Quasar here. Quasar will target people with meteors and put a pulsating ground AoE underneath them. Simply stack up on the north side, then move south. The damage is proximity based. If you manage to push her to 75%, she will skip this mechanic and go right into Thunder 2. This is followed by scale tilting. She will tether herself to the scales on the outside of the arena. The even number of tethers will be a hard tilt, and the odd numbers will be a soft tilt. The hard tilts will require you to be on the edge, while the soft tilts will only require you to be in between the markers. After Sophia disappears, you'll want to look for the blue light and run to the opposite side. The blue light will indicate the side that you will slide to. While running to the appropriate side and distance, you'll also want to avoid the dive bomb because it will cover half of the arena. The reason why the distance is important is because later in the fight, the head will spawn on the side and shoot a laser through the middle of the arena. So if it is a soft tilt, you will slide right into the laser if you are too far back. Sophia will cast Discordant Damnation. This will spawn black and white circles on random players. Each DPS will receive one color, while the tanks and healers receive another. This is why the markers are important. These markers will predetermine everyone's pairs, making this mechanic extremely simple. Stack on your marked pair while being slightly away from everyone else. If this mechanic is failed, it will apply healing, potency down, and bleeding. Sophia will glow yellow, indicating raid damaging AoEs, called Sensimani. This will usually happen in succession and deal moderate raid-wide damage with each cast. If not prepared for, this has the potential to wipe the group. During this phase, Sophia will also repeat her Thunder 2 and 3 formations and tether herself to the clones, followed by Arrow 3. Pay attention to the head, because it will appear on a random safe spot, forcing you to go to the other safe spot. Sophia will indicate a tank buster by glowing green. It does high damage, knocks back, applies a stack of lightning resist down, and happens faster than it initially appears. There should be a swap before the animation finishes. If there isn't, the tank will take massive damage from auto attacks. It is definitely possible to heal through this, but I wouldn't recommend it unless it's absolutely necessary. As the fight progresses, she will start to stack mechanics on top of each other. During Discordant Damnation, the head will spawn near a random corner, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. There will also be a tilt during the next Discordant Damnation. Towards the end of the fight, there will be another Quasar mechanic followed by Thunder 2 or 3. High DPS is very important in this fight because it allows you to skip many things. This fight is also very forgiving when it comes to failed mechanics and falling off, so just because a couple people die, don't give up. You can usually recover. Well friends, that's all I got. I hope this guide was helpful and will lead to some sweet first clears. Peace guys.